Hi, race fans. I am here with American race car driver Sabre Cook, who will be competing again, right, for the W Series this year,
Mhm.
2021. And also, you just raced at Daytona, right, for the MX5 Cup? Is that correct?
Yeah, I did. I
For
did.
the Daytona 24, so cool. I saw that. That was a really cool race.
It was
So
a lot of fun. Tons of action-packed racing. So I really enjoyed it.
absolutely. That's your first time at doing that at Daytona 24?
Yeah, first time in an MX-5 and first time at Daytona as well. So it was pretty cool.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Love to hear that. Okay, I couldn't go. The COVID pandemic. Anyway, wanted to be there, but don't get me started. I'm sure you're tired of that too, as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Okay,
It
well,
kind of
definitely.
affects everything and anything I do right now, just like everybody else. So it's like everyone's quite over it, I'm sure.
No, definitely, definitely. All right, okay. So let's start. Let's get to know you a little bit better and talk about your background in racing. Uh, so how old were you when you first started racing? Like the first time you got into a go-kart, how old were you?
The first time I got into a go-kart that I drove, I was about 8 years old. My dad did get a shifter cart before that and would like sit us on his lap and drive us around like a parking lot, if that counts, but probably not. But that was
That
only like a
counts.
year previous to that. So yeah, I was about 8 when I actually got my own go-kart and started to drive.
Nice. I no, that totally counts. Hey, every little thing. The parking lot counts. Totally. I have a race. I have like a go kart too. I was like the same age as you, and I remember church parking lot. I had that's where we did our go kart. It was the church parking lot. So it's always the parking lot when you first start out. Totally true.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's what a great story. So grow. Is it was your dad? Is he the one? He's the one that got you into racing?
Yeah. So he used to race motocross and supercross professionally, and
Ah,
when
did not
he retired, he ended up finding karting. But him and my mother did not want my brother and I racing motorcycles, so we got into karting, and I was literally like born straight into the whole racing scene. Like my parents used to run a couple supercross events in town, and so they were actually like my mom they were at the race hosting the supercross event and running it, and my mom had to be taken from the supercross event to the hospital to give birth to me. And then of course my dad went with her, so they left the racetrack, went to the hospital, gave birth, and then cleaned it all up later on. So it was kind of funny.
Wow, that's the craziest story. Like you were literally born at a racetrack, like almost.
Well, maybe not at a racetrack, but
But almost.
like
There was
yeah,
like that possibility, but you were
it was
like,
definitely a possibility.
wow. That well, you had to be a racer. I mean, obviously, that was your first thing. That was your
Yeah.
first taste, right? You weren't out yet, but that's so wow, wow. What a crazy story. That's awesome. So did you growing up in your early days, do you have like a racing hero that inspires you or
I guess with when I was growing up, I really did look up to my dad, and he
oh
gave a lot of good advice because of his experiences. And then as I got older and I got introduced to, like, more people in the karting world, Alan Rudolph was actually a really big role model for me when I was moving up. And then Joey Wimsett was a mentor to me as well. But then as far as like big iconic racing legends, I didn't realize, like, I didn't do like find out about all the the F1 legends until I was like 16 or so. And so then I learned more like about like Jim Clark and Ayrton Senna. So those are two probably of my top, like, just like magical iconic drivers.
no, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I agree too. Sometimes it's funny, right? When you like you start driving and doing go-karts and everything, but when you really start to understand the series, like, and you start to see these legends, it's usually when you're in your teens, I feel like. Then you can
Mhm.
start to like really see. My hero's always been Mario Andretti. So I can relate. Yeah, I can relate to you. A little F1 flair there, so totally
Yeah.
cool. Totally cool. So let's talk about your karting days because
Mhm.
let's see, you're a multi-time karting champion and race winner. Uh, what was that? Were you like often the only girl in karting? And how difficult was that for you?
Uh, in karting, it was very often that I was the only female, or maybe there might have been one or two others if I like those were on the good days, I guess. So, but then there was tons of events where like I think I was the first female to get a exclusive pro license. I'm not even sure. I think there's only maybe one or two others that actually have a pro license now. So yeah, I was the only one in the shifter cart stuff for forever, and then the KZ World Cup, I was the only. I don't know if a woman has qualified in the last couple of years, but when I qualified in 20, was it 14? I was the first female to qualify for a main event, so it was like there was not a lot of girls, and it was difficult. I admit, like sometimes growing up. In such an environment where it's just all dominated by boys because like you don't have a ton of your peers around sometimes other than like school interactions where obviously like I was so like so much like all over the place that I was like school racing. So it was a bit different and it was hard and they definitely did try to like push you around a little more if you were a girl, so you had to like very much learn to stand up for yourself, which I thought was a great experience and I wouldn't change that. I mean, yeah, it was challenging, but I think it was really good. And then just yeah, just learning how to deal with being a woman in a man's world as it is right now. And but I'm really glad that I had to go through those sort of experiences because I think it made me who I am today and taught me a lot about life.
That's awesome. Did it feel good when you got pushed around to beat the boys?
Yes, it did. Of course, that was like you could like sometimes the motivation in the back of your mind is like I'm gonna do this for all the girls like out there that don't have the chance or maybe get pushed around by guys or whatever, like I'm gonna do this for them, and then it kind of is like just a little extra satisfaction on top of when you beat them.
Nice, nice. No, I can see that. I can see that. That's good. That's good. It's like it gives you that drive, right? I love it. That's totally cool. I love it. That's a great story. Let's see. Was there a specific or like a pivotal moment where you were like, you know what? I want to do this for the rest of my life. It was, in racing.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, so it was in 2007, actually, 2007, I won my first karting world championship and I was just like, oh my God. I remember after I like crossed the finish line, it felt like I know it sounds super cheesy, but it did feel like time just kind of slowed down and I was just like taking the moment in and just like, wow, like this is awesome. Like I could see myself doing this for the rest of my life. And so that for me was kind of that career determining moment.
Were you hooked? Like, were you just like, that's it, I'm hooked, I need more of this? Because I often talk to race car drivers, and they're like, oh, once you win, you gotta have more. Was it like that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'd grown up with it, so like I
Hmm.
didn't I think I sometimes I don't want to say I took it for granted, but I definitely didn't realize how special it could be. And then we had a tough weekend. We really struggled up until qualifying and then found that there was a problem with the carburetor and we swapped it out and then we just managed to dominate the weekend and it was just like such a like high low experience that
Yes.
you're like if you persevere and you continue to work hard, and my dad was working alongside me the whole weekend, so I think that just made it a special time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Your dad seems like such a great part of your racing world. I know you posted, I think it was on Instagram and Twitter. I saw you in the airport with your dad. It was such a cute picture. I thought that was so cute. Such a cute little pic. I love it. I love it. That's happy. That makes me happy when I see stuff like that. Okay, so getting back on track here. Let's see. So you were also what part of the US? You did the USF 2000 and the F4 US Championship. Both of those. How would you say did those help at all with other series? Prepping you for series down later down the road.
I mean, definitely. I I didn't get to do full championships,
Right.
unfortunately, because the funding. So I did, a couple races in F4 and a few races in USF 2000. So it wasn't like the most ideal situation to be in, but they definitely gave me exposure into what to expect, and definitely helped my campaign for W Series in 2019. But yeah, I just wish that I could have done, if I could go back and do it differently, I probably would have just been tried to make somehow figure out a way to have more of a complete budget for, full on testing and being prepared to go into those races. Cause I kind of just jumped in on the deep end, and just because it's so hard to get the funding.
It is hard to get funding. Oh, I'm going to talk about that later with you because I think that's important to talk about. But while I'm still have this momentum going here, there's I like looked at you when I did prepared for this interview. You have so many accomplishments, like you really do. And another one that you have is you were the Infinity Engineering Academy winner in 2018, right? What was that like going through that program? I believe don't you have a mechanical engineering background as well? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from the Colorado School of Mines. I did win in 2018 the Infinity Engineering Academy, the US region. So that secured my spot to go work for Infinity and Renault F1 in 2019. So that was awesome and amazing.
Yeah.
I love that experience too. So it was a nice compliment, and it worked out that I was already based over in Europe and happened to do W Series at the same time. So it was really awesome.
I saw some pics with Nico Hulkenberg. Did you give him some advice? Engineering
Oh,
advice?
I mean, maybe I could give him engineering advice, but driving advice, I think he's pretty covered. But I did tell him that he had great hair, so I think he appreciated that.
Does have great hair. He really does. Like that's like I swear you could just look at that. It's a masterpiece. Nicole,
Yeah,
Nicole Hulkenberg's hair. Oh my goodness. He could have his own Instagram page just for his hair and his cute dog. He has a cute dog.
probably.
So
Oh my gosh, right? And it's like it makes it even cuter because it's just like it's not a dog you would expect Nico Hulkenberg to have. And then he's like so in love with the dog. It's amazing.
that's funny. But did you get to work beside him a little bit? Was that nice? To work with like an
So
F1 driver?
well, we got introduced to them, and we did
Hmm.
interact with them a bit, like when we were at the actual like US races, and then we got to interact with them a little bit at Barcelona. But as far as engineering goes, it's not what everybody thinks it is with the F1 teams, unless you're like actually that designated driver's race engineer. So I was a design engineer and worked in suspension. So like the majority of the engineers are at the factory full time. So we actually don't travel to all the races. We're in the factory working on design, iterations, and whatever performance development for the next year's cars. So that and the drivers actually don't come into the factory like too much. They don't, I mean, they definitely don't come in every day.
Right.
So it was cool because we would get to meet them and interact with them, and they would be in the factory and you could say hello and talk to them, but we weren't like working with them every single day, like their designated race engineers are.
Well, that's really cool though. You still had a part in that car. So that is pretty cool. What was your biggest takeaway with that program? Just the experience, just learning everything or
I think one of the biggest things to take away with that was I got to learn about a lot about composites because I hadn't had exposure to that in the past. So that for me was a big chunk of learning. But then also just seeing how they operate, I guess, and understanding the structure that they have laid out, and then how they look at things and how they prioritize to keep their design schedule on track, I think was really admirable. And then just learning like how committed I knew they were very committed people, but just like seeing that in real life and realizing that, that they are just real people, and they themselves are trying to better themselves every single day and the best that they can. So yeah, those are probably the biggest takeaways.
That's awesome. What an incredible experience for you. That's really, really cool. Okay, so enough Nico talk. This is your interview. I know. Let's let's go back to you. Let's talk about the W series because a lot of cool things for you, right? Like you've made history because you made it into the inaugural W series, the first season. But you were also the only American driver to be in the series for 2020, even though the 2020 season didn't happen. And now you're competing this year. What makes the W series so unique and so different than other series, besides the fact that it's all females? Like, what is it about the W series? Obviously that's the one thing.
Yeah. I guess the one thing that is in like absolutely incredible about the W series is that from a driver's perspective, it's all paid for. So funding is not a limiting factor, whereas all the other series that you go into, like it's about, how much money can you bring? Can you go with a top team? Can you do a X amount of number of preseason test days? And with W series, like there we are still allowed to preseason test if you have the funding to do so. So that is kind of a bit of an issue, but in season, no one, it's very restricted. You're not allowed to test on the tracks that we're going to be racing. It's not like you can go test, you can pay W series to go test in the cars outside of the designated race weekends. So it's very they make it very fair as much as they possibly can. And obviously we were switching cars, so it wasn't about like whoever had the fastest car was winning. It was they kind of tried to just eliminate any possible unfairness situation that they could. And so it was, from a driver's perspective, it's the most ideal championship you could ever be a part of, because you don't have to bring funding, you don't have to worry about getting stuck in a terrible car, and you don't
Right.
have to worry about getting stuck with a terrible engineer, because if they all, none of our engineers were terrible, but like you got a new engineer every race. So it was just like, it was so ideal. Like there, if they could make all the racing series that way, I mean, it would be game changing. And I couldn't imagine like what would come of it. Like if you think of F1, if F1 did that, it was, oh my gosh, the racing would be amazing. It would just be so close. It'd be great.
And what's funny is that I was just going to say, coming from IndyCar, I always think IndyCar is, oh, IndyCar is the best, it's the best. But no, like this, like the best at, being leveling the field. But man, the W Series just takes it to another level.
Mm.
And that's really cool. I'm sure that just, when you don't have to worry about funding and you don't have to, I feel like funding is so, such a stressor. Do
Mhm.
you feel like the W series is designed to help you be the best racer you can be in the series?
I mean, it definitely gives all of us the best platform possible. I mean, obviously they can't just like throw unlimited amounts of budget at all of us to help us like grow exponentially, which is completely fair. But the fact that they're giving us a free season in F3 cars on amazing tracks, they support our they do give us a bit of support with the physical training. They give us support, if we need help with marketing or comms, like communications, they're always there to like as a resource if you need it. So it's just they definitely take the time to give us the tools that we need, and they're available to us if we use them.
I love that because it's not, racing isn't just about being in the car, it's also about other things as well. So it's good. Yeah, it's really good to
Yes,
see that.
sadly. Like what people do, I wish I just raced all the time and that was what a race car did, but a race car driver did. But the majority of my time is spent chasing sponsorship. So definitely the top one, and then like training, because I mean you can't drive in a car all the time. So that is a race car driver's life.
It is. No, totally. It's not as glamorous, is it?
Yeah.
Unless you're an F1 driver, I guess, right? Because they're like on a whole nother level.
That is, yeah,
But
next level.
yeah, next is like up there. Let's see. Okay, so tell me what's been the most rewarding, part for the W series for you? If you could just pick one thing that just really, you
Mm.
know, just yeah.
I guess like experience wise, I think getting to race on Brands Hatch was pretty amazing.
Ah,
But I guess
cool.
like overall, just like camaraderie experience wise,
Hmm.
the first initial evaluation days that we had in Milk, Austria I thought it was an amazing experience. One, because we got to meet 60 other, well, I guess 59 other women that were involved in motorsports and had the same passion as us, and which usually, we don't get the chance to, we maybe get to meet one or two, never like that many. And then we had all these mentors around us that were in W Series. Lynn St. James was there, Catherine, the CEO, was there, David Coulthard was there, Matt Bishop was there, like Annie was there, everybody was there, and just supporting the movement forward. So getting to just be in that atmosphere where it's just like so many people pushing towards one similar goal was a very unique experience. And then all the challenges that we got to go through were, yeah, they were tough, but it was so much fun. Like if we could do that on a daily basis as like a training program, I would love it. I really would.
That's awesome. You mentioned some big names there in terms of mentors. Did any of them give you some special advice? That just
I mean,
that just stuck with you?
I guess I'm trying to think.
It's probably been a while too.
I mean, I guess like with Lynn, she actually came into my life in 2012, 2013, and
Hmm.
she actually mentored me a bit there for
Oh,
like about a
nice.
year or so, and just stayed in touch, stayed friends. And so she's taught me more. I guess I can't think of anything like super inspiring quotes that I can think of off the top of my head, but she just taught me like the importance of, having a structure and like gathering as much data as you can from all the tracks that you go to, organizing that out as a race car driver, because that is, that's your money right there. Like having that information and remembering, so that way next time you go back to the track. But there is one thing I definitely think that really helped me was she had me read this book, and it basically was to understand and learn how you learn. So that way you understand how you learn best, and then using that to tackle any problem going forward. So that way you can basically advance your learning and your progression as much as or as fast as possible.
That's cool. That's really good advice. That's probably priceless right there. It's always
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, definitely, definitely priceless. So let's talk about so in the W series, let's talk about a little bit of some misconceptions and stereotypes. When the W series came out, it's a little controversial. People were either all about it or not about it. What in your opinion, what do you think the biggest misconception there is out there about the series?
I think well, I think there's two. One,
Yeah,
the
tell
biggest
me.
one I'd say is that people think that it's a place because women can't race with men. But then if they think that, they really don't understand the idea and what W Series is trying to do. They're essentially like a driver development program, more or less, because they're giving you access to all these tools, putting you on the track, helping you, build your brand, build your exposure, and that helps push you forward into other series. It's not meant to be like, okay, well, guys can only race, by yourselves, so we're just going to put you over here. It's like, okay, this is the level that most women drop off at because of funding or what otherwise. So let's give them a platform to continue to grow, give them prize money, and hope that they can make connections, use some of the prize money to go on and do other things. So that, I think, is something that people really need to understand, that it's not saying, okay, women need to have their own racing series. This is just a driver development program that happens to be for all women. Another one, this is more of a bit of a silly one, but I had a couple people ask like several times, like, do you guys like live together? Like they think it's like a I don't know, like a sorority house or like a TV show or something like that. And they think that the girls, the way they've picked the girls, or I don't know, it's just like they maybe wasn't based on like how fast you were. It was based on like media purposes, but I can promise you, if I was allowed to share the information, I could show you like the times, and they literally just pick the top fastest ones. That those are the ones that qualified to get in. And we definitely don't live together. We all live in our own countries and our own houses, and like we don't, we're not you know, what is it called? Is it Big Brother? Is that the show
Yeah,
that where they all live in?
it's
Is
like
that what
Big
it
Brother.
is?
Yeah, totally. When you
Yeah.
go, or like The Bachelor, when you go and live in those houses with all the girls. Yeah,
Yeah, it
no,
is
no, no.
not, definitely not that.
That's
The
funny. But it's because also, and this is just, we have to deal with this being, females, but let's just be honest. The W Series drivers are all beautiful. I mean, like, I'm just gonna throw that out there. You are, including you. And so naturally, people are like, oh, like you guys must have pillow fights and sleepovers. Like, right?
yeah, I guess. I don't know.
You're like it's funny, but that's a really silly misconception. I love it.
It
That's
is. It
hilarious.
is.
That is so funny. Yeah, you're like, yeah, we just, we sit around and do our nails together before we get in our cars, and have a tea
Yeah,
party.
exactly.
Absolutely. We go to the oh, okay, all right. Like, we go shopping. No. Okay. So, well, which brings me to my next point with you as a female race car driver. Uh,
Mhm.
Stereotypes that you've had to deal. What about you as like personally? What have been the misconceptions and stereotypes that you get? Tell me them
Um,
the most.
oh, big ones, I guess.
Yeah.
The two that I can think of off the top of my head is like, um, well, you don't look like a race car driver, or you don't
See?
look like an engineer. And I'm like, what is that supposed to look like? And then I get asked a lot in engineering and when I'm at the racetrack. A lot of guys will come by. I'm sure you've gotten this. Well, do you know what you're doing out there? Or like, I hope so at this point. I mean, I don't know. And then other things, they think like as a woman, they expect you to be kind of a pushover. I've had like competitors come up to me after race, be like, wow, you're a lot harder to pass than I thought you were gonna be. And it's like, okay. Or they what do you want me to do, just pull over and let you go by? Like, I'm not really sure what they expect. And then what else? I guess those are probably the biggest ones.
I interviewed Samantha Tan, and we talked about the similar stuff, stereotypes. She said for her, she has people bully her on track.
Mhm.
The male, yeah. And you reminded me of that, where people think, oh, you're easy to pass. By the way, you're not easy to pass, because you get an award for most passes in W Series? Is that
Yeah,
did
I
I
did. Yeah.
that's yeah. So no, you're not easy. You're like, no, no, I'm not
It's the
easy to
karting
pass.
days. I gotta thank the karting days for that.
Nice. See, being the only girl has made you stronger. Um, okay, yeah. I'm always amused with these stereotypes. I get them too.
Oh, I bet.
We're expected to look a certain way. We're expected to be beautiful, but then we're not. Can't be too beautiful, and then we can't be too to be taken seriously. So it's definitely right. It's definitely these are the issues that we deal with.
Mhm.
Um, in the racing world, of course. But I think the times are changing, so we'll hold on to that. So
I hope so.
hopefully,
And if
I
not, you know what? At the end of the day, that's all their own ideas and
right
perception of what they want us to be. And the cool thing is you get to choose what you want to be, and it doesn't matter
exactly
what they expect.
doesn't matter at all. Exactly. Okay, let's talk about what's been your proudest moment so far in your whole career up to this point.
Oh, I guess. I guess racing wise, when the one that I remember feeling very proud was I won the SCUSA national championship in 2012. And when they gave out the championship trophies and, they like presented all on stage for the presentations, I got a standing ovation from the entire room. And so like that, because I was the first female to win a national championship with SCUSA. I think I still am. And it was like, everyone was just really supportive of that. And I just remember feeling, very happy that day. And I actually have like a couple younger girls that were karting at that time, like in the junior categories, and they said, oh, I was there, and I saw that, and that just inspired me to keep going. So that I would say, like, I mean, I know it's not like the highest accolade in the world, but it's like that for me was a really amazing moment.
It doesn't. No, that's amazing. I mean, you are also young in your career as well. So no, I mean, this makes sense. But this is the one that made you so proud. That's awesome. I mean, that I'm proud for you, and I'm happy for you, because breaking these stereotypes, breaking these barriers is not easy, for a female, for women and girls. And yeah, I'm sure you do give a lot of hope, to everyone. You are an inspiration. So
I
I
hope so.
think, no, you are. I think you are. That's why I wanted to interview you. One of the many reasons why. But yeah, no, definitely. So, oh, that's great. Thank you for sharing that moment. That's a nice moment. Okay, then on the flip side, tell me about tell me about your worst.
Oh,
Or most challenging. Tell me, because I want to know about that.
I mean, there's been a lot. That's what most people don't understand, is like with
Oh,
racing, there's so many more lows than
many
there are
runs.
highs. And
Right.
at least like, with traditional sports, typically, it's one team against one team. It's not, one against 20. So your odds of winning go down quite a lot when you're when you're racing. So it's I'm trying to think. I guess a recent one that I can think of actually was in the W Series. This is probably isn't the worst moment I've ever had, but it was definitely a tough one for me. I made a mistake on the start of the race in Assen, and I got a drive-through penalty because of it.
Mm.
And so that just obviously ruined my chances of going into the points for that race. And I think I was a bit stressed, like from a lot of things, but I was just frustrated at myself that I'd made the mistake. But then, that for me was it was tough, because, the top 12 were the only ones that were going to go through. And so that was kind of, pressure to stay performing well and continue to be in the top 12 in the championship. So that for me was definitely a tough moment, and just accepting that allowing myself to be okay with the fact that I made a mistake, but then I get to learn from it. And then learning that after, there's so many people that came to me and was like, hey, just so you know, like, this so and so made that mistake at one point, this person made that same
Oh,
mistake. So it was like, everyone makes mistakes. But it was a tough pill for me to swallow. But then it was also such like a good reminder that everyone makes mistakes, and as long as you learn from those mistakes, then that's okay.
and that's okay. How do you? Is that? Do you give yourself like a pep talk? How do you bounce back? Is that what you do? You remind yourself of that? Because I make a mistake and I like cry for 2 days. But you, I know I do.
No.
I'm just being real. Like I will literally like cry for 2 days. But you can't do that. You have to get back in the car. You have
No.
to. You don't have time, to do that. So how do you
Yeah, it's like you
how
gotta,
do you bounce
I guess.
back?
So for me, I have like a mantra that I will say to myself, that will try to like kind of basically reset myself into the zone. And then I will also, I'll be, you're afterwards, after you make a mistake and you're like, God, or whether it's like, oh, why did I say that? Or why did I do that? Or blah, 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 blah. The list goes on. I've really tried working on this lately. I mean, this has been, obviously it's a lifelong process of learning, but lately I've found that when you do make mistakes and you're kind of dwelling on it, just coming out of that and recognizing that, okay, I'm obviously wasting my energy on the past, and being upset about that has absolutely no benefit to going forward into what I'm doing in this moment and going forward into my goals that I need to achieve tomorrow, today, whatever. So just like looking at it from a very objective point of view and just being like, this isn't serving me right now. I'm going to let that go. I need to be focused on like just replacing it with more like facts, like, okay, I made this mistake, I learned this, and now this is what I need to be focused on to do better. To be like, maybe like, okay, I need to focus on this, this, and this going into the next session. So just kind of making it almost like stepping out of it and realizing that it's just a waste of my energy. I guess like that's the best way I
No.
can put it, is just focusing on the process and the performance that is coming ahead rather than looking at the mistakes from behind.
Well, there's no doubt. I'm taking your advice now. I'm going to be mentally strong at the end of you. Next time something happens, I'm going to say, no, Sabre told me to step out of this. That's what I'm
It's
going to
so
say.
true though.
It
Trust me,
is
I've tried it a million
true.
different ways, and like from an error, this is the best way that I've found to think about it.
No, definitely. I'm grateful for that because yes, it's true. That's I'm the downward. Like it gets worse. Like it's not that worse. Like calm down. It's
Yeah.
okay. No, but I'm like no, and then this, and then I replay it. Oh no, that's totally how I am. Okay, I know, totally, totally. But no, that's great.
You know what also helps is to when you think of all the things, like a mistake you made, think of all the things that you did right.
Yes, that's a good one. That is a good one. We often forget, right? It's so
I
easy
know.
to
You
forget
have
that.
like 20,000 things you did good, and then you did one bad thing, and you're like, oh my God, you just
Was
fall apart.
everything.
So,
Yeah, totally, totally. So which we kind of talked about this a little bit, but we often talk about the skills that are learned and the skills that you need for racing, right? Like, driving skills, things like that. But what about personal growth? Um, what has racing and motorsports, taught you about yourself? If you can tell me about one lesson that's actually, really taught you about yourself.
taught me about myself. Well, it's taught me a lot of lessons. Taught me about myself.
Well, in terms of
Um,
personal growth, because
yeah.
you do learn a
Uh,
lot about yourself, correct? When you're driving,
yeah,
especially for you, you've been
definitely.
in different series, so you've learned a lot.
I guess I tend to be too hard on myself
Mm.
and set sometimes I get like and oh, this I have the perfect answer to this. When when you're like, oh, I shouldn't have, you're so frustrated at yourself and you expect like almost like these unrealistic expectations out of yourself, like, well, I should have done this and I should have that and I should have been able to jump in this car and drive it just exactly as fast as this person that's driven it for 10 years. And like that isn't like that isn't a healthy, like trying to push yourself, like, or being like unconfident and having like this poor view of yourself. Rather, it's the opposite. It's almost like having this it's actually ego. It's like, how
Mm.
dare you think that you can jump in and perform at this level and not pay your dues, like. So I guess like I always thought of it as I was being too hard on myself, I'm being down on myself, I'm being like this and that. Whereas if you step out of it and just be like, well, kind of, who do you think you are to think that you should just jump in and magically do all of this to the top level? You gotta put the time in, put the work in. And so that for me was like kind of opening it up, because I've never thought of myself as like a an arrogant, egotistical person. And so I was like, but in a way it kind of is, when you look at yourself that way. And because I think some of us are either one or the other, we're highly
Mhm.
confident, or we're a bit like insecure and we're hard on ourselves. But in a way, that own insecurity, hard on yourself, is actually the same as the arrogance and the ego. So it's like just that really kind of switched perspectives for me.
That's that's really interesting that you say it that way. I've never thought about it that way, but you see that a lot in well, just thinking about like F1 drivers, you see like Charles Leclerc mess up and he's so hard on himself, right? Like when he's like, I'm
Yeah.
stupid, 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 you're like, ah.
It's like, I
Um,
am stupid.
I and then you see other drivers like Lewis who's just complete opposite. You don't get that from him at all. He also doesn't make any mistakes, but that's okay. I mean, he does make mistakes, but I'm just kidding, just kidding. But yeah, so I never thought about it that way, but yeah, it is true. But that's really interesting. Part of racing is you have to be so mentally strong. So definitely, definitely. Okay. Um, let's just be real. You're definitely a trailblazer, and not just for females, for women and girls in motorsports, but just in general, because you've accomplished so much already. And what's next, like, for you, in terms of what would you like to achieve moving forward? And do you like have a bucket list of things, items in racing?
Yes.
Yes, tell me about the bucket list.
Definitely. Yes.
Tell me.
Well, ultimate goal is to make it to IndyCar, and be a
Ah,
full-time IndyCar driver. So, I know it's gonna take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and lots of money to get there. But I haven't given up faith yet, and I'm working every day towards that goal. As far as other racing, I mean, I would absolutely love to race 24 hours of Daytona, 24 hours of Le Mans. Those would be big bucket list items for me. Maybe the 12 hours of Nürburgring, stuff like that. Sebring, I think those would be very iconic races to take part in as well.
definitely. I'm happy you said IndyCar, because I want to see you in IndyCar. I would love that.
I want to see
we
me in IndyCar.
You're like, I want to see me. No, that would be absolutely amazing. I hope I get to interview you in IndyCar. So, with speaking of, now I'm going to talk a little bit about what I had a talk with Rob Howden
Oh,
from the
okay.
yeah, we talked about
I've
you
known him.
actually.
Yeah, I've known him since
Yeah.
I was a kid, like was a little tiny kid, probably 15, 16. Yeah.
Oh, that's all. So I did an interview with him. He's amazing. We talked about why there aren't, any, how come there are not enough women and girls in racing, especially in the early stages. And it's not because you aren't good. It's you guys have, obviously all of you are amazing and talented, skillful drivers, but it always comes down to that funding and sponsors. So what can we do? What can we do to help you? We want to see you in a racing car. So we want to see you in IndyCar. What can we do? And I say that because you are also part of, you are part of Shift Up Now. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So tell me about that, and tell everyone how we can help you, because we do. It is about sponsorship and money, and we want to know what we can do just to see you in that car, and an Indy car. What can we do?
Uh, for that, I guess, I mean, if you have like $10 million, that would be very helpful.
So we'll
Um,
do a GoFundMe.
yeah, we could totally raise $10 million. I wish. But so I guess like what people out there that want to
Mhm.
support women in racing and
Right.
support me, what you can do like day to day is maybe just be willing to, word of mouth, just talk about us, like talk about what we're doing, talk about if we inspire you, share those special things. And I guess for us, it's all about networking and contacts. So
Mhm.
if you know anybody or know someone that would be interested in, getting their company to sponsor a race car, or they themselves sponsoring a race car, or just even if it's just sharing our stories and getting our name out there more, so that way more people can find us. It's also about putting pressure on those big companies to start investing more in women. There's millions and millions of dollars that go into sports every year, and only, like, I don't even know, like not even a tenth of that go to women. So it's just like there's such a small fraction that are being invested in the women athletes. So we really need to put the pressure for that. And women make 89% of buying decisions. They influence 89% of buying decisions.
Right.
So
Yes.
obviously, like, we got some pull out there, like, so we got to just use the
Totally.
influence that we have. And if you guys love what we're doing, and you like want to support us, that's the best way that you can. You can also, I mean, if you have anybody, you can always try and get in contact with me, and if you think that they would be willing to help me, I would absolutely love that. You can also join Shift Up Now. Shift
Mhm.
Up Now is like a collective of people, not just women. There's men that have joined Shift
Mhm.
Up Now too, plenty of men. And it's just basically a collective that is helping to try and connect women in motorsports, and then also push us all forward together. So it's about, even from, the girls starting in karting all the way through. I mean, Pippa Mann is the head of
Mhm.
it, Pippa and Shay, and I mean, she's IndyCar driver, and Shay is ahead of, she's a team manager
Mhm.
now, but she was, top notch sports car and overwheel driver as well. So just investing in that and becoming a member. And you don't just like, by becoming a member, you don't just like get nothing. You get
Yeah.
access to a bunch of stuff. Like you not only do you support us, but you get access to tons of webinars that members get access to, as well as like, swag, like products, all. And you actually get our discounts on certain like racing products, items, stuff like that, whether it's
Nice.
like pit fit programs or bell helmets or sab out gear. Like there's so much stuff on there that can also benefit you guys. There's actually a webinar happening, I think this weekend on
Okay.
Saturday. I'll be on it, and it teaches people how to get into racing. So if there's
Ah,
people out there wanting to know how to get into racing, we have all of the answers for you. Just go ahead
oh,
and
that's,
go sign up there. So
yeah.
yeah, that's the best way that you guys can start to get involved. And all those female CEOs out there, share some love, help us get up there with you.
No,
Like,
totally. If I had all the money in the world, I would totally buy, an all girls racing team. Totally. And I'd put it in IndyCar. I tried to do F1, but I feel like I like Indy. I
that
feel
would
like
be
Indy.
tough. It would be tough.
Yeah, exactly. It would be tough. Not impossible, but
Definitely not impossible, but the budget
right.
oof,
Ooh,
would be a
is
lot.
right.
Let's start with IndyCar. Then
Start with
we'll
IndyCar.
just go from there.
Start with IndyCar. Ah, perfect. No, awesome. But I often, you brought up such a good point too. We do buy lots of things, women and girls and females. I'm ready to buy all the merch that the girl driver. We do. We like wearing all the merch, all the cool stuff, all the racing stuff. And today, as and we see more and more women getting interested in racing, and we would like someone to interact with, to be able to
Yeah.
relate to. We want to see the
Yeah.
girls with their mascara, with their helmets. We want to see them sweat like we sweat. We want to see them push. We want to see that. So okay, we'll check out Shift Up Now because that's really cool. I'm going to check it out too, and that's really great to know that you guys often, you offer stuff like how to get into racing, so that helps other people out as well. Okay, last thing, so we can end on a positive note. If you can tell, always, if you can tell to all the aspiring race car drivers out there, you can tell them one thing. It could be advice, could be anything. What would you tell them?
Um, I would just be very honest with them and tell them that it's going to be extremely difficult, and you're going to have to be willing to commit tons of time. And most of that won't be on the racetrack. It's going to be, chasing sponsors, taking meetings, whatever you need to do. But if you love racing enough, it will be so worth it when you get into the car. But just be very aware, it does take tons of commitment. But if I could give any other advice too, it would be, from the beginning, do your research, get good people around you, so that way you can have your progression in the most efficient manner. Because I can't tell you how many times I or others, have wasted so much time in the wrong areas.
Yeah, no, awesome. That's perfect. That's probably, that's also practical advice. So that's great. I like that. Sometimes you get advice and you're like, okay, cool. But no, I need some I need something
Yeah, you
practical.
need
So
like tangible, like there's lots of
yes,
pretty quotes out there, but like when
yeah.
you need to get shit done, like you gotta have something tangible.
Yes, exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. Perfect. Okay. Oh, Sabre, thank you so much. I know you're so busy, so I really appreciate all the time you made with for me today. And don't worry, I'm going to be posting this, and I do,
Okay.
want to celebrate females, and hopefully we can get the word out about you and give you the recognition that you deserve, and whatever we can do to
Thank
see
you.
you, whatever we can do to see you in IndyCar. So it's what, so I can be
That would
interviewing
be
you.
awesome.
I know, so I can actually interview you at an IndyCar racetrack, in person one day, hopefully.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes,
Let's
yes,
make it happen.
make it happen. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Thank
No problem.
you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.